When the strange object first appeared in the sky, most people thought it was just another satellite or maybe a new space experiment. It moved slowly, calmly, and without any sign of danger. News channels began talking about it within minutes, but the tone was more curious than worried. People gathered in parks and on rooftops to watch the glowing oval drifting above the clouds. It was so quiet and smooth that it almost felt peaceful. But that peaceful feeling didn't last long. The object grew larger over the next hour, and soon it became clear that this was not a human creation. Its surface was silver and had no lines, no windows, no engines, nothing familiar. It didn't turn or tilt like planes or rockets. It simply hovered as if gravity didn't matter. Governments around the world activated their space observatories, trying to understand what they were looking at. Even with all their technology, nobody could explain how the object stayed in the sky without noise or heat. People started realizing the truth at the same time. This was a ship, and whoever built it wasn't from Earth. The moment that thought spread, everything changed. Streets became quiet. Families gathered inside, glued to news updates. Phones kept buzzing with messages from worried friends. Even people who never believed in life beyond Earth suddenly felt a chill run through their bodies. If this ship belonged to someone else, someone from the stars, then Earth was no longer alone. And if Earth was no longer alone, nobody knew whether that was good or bad. When the ship finally stopped moving, it positioned itself directly above the largest international communication hub on the planet. This was not random. Whoever was inside knew exactly where they needed to send their message. Governments quickly coordinated and formed an emergency global meeting. Leaders, military officials, scientists, and communication experts gathered behind closed doors as the world waited. Every TV channel paused its regular content. Every news anchor sat straight, eyes sharp, waiting for anything to happen. Then the sky turned gold. A thin beam of light shot down from the alien ship and formed a huge circular shape above the atmosphere, like a hologram. The shape slowly changed into symbols no human language system could recognize. They glowed, shifted, and expanded outward until they filled the sky. Cameras from every continent captured the scene, sending it live to billions of people. Then the symbols changed into a voice. It wasn't a normal voice. It didn't come from speakers or vibrations in the air. Instead, it felt like the sound was being placed directly into people's minds. The tone was calm, firm, and emotionless. It felt like something that had spoken across many worlds before Earth. The message was simple, yet chilling. People of Earth, we arrive as representatives of an empire older than your recorded time. Your world has reached a level of growth that requires regulation. You will surrender all control of your military forces and submit to supervision under our authority. Failure to comply will result in consequences you cannot prevent. No greetings, no explanation, no introduction, just a demand. For a moment, the entire planet fell silent. The world expected the first alien contact to be filled with excitement, discovery, maybe even friendship. People imagined handshakes, shared science, peaceful learning. Instead, the first words spoken by beings from another world were an ultimatum demanding surrender. The alien voice continued in the same cold tone. Your planet has been observed for longer than your governments understand. Your conflicts, your weapons, your rapid technological growth, these create instability. Our empire maintains order across many worlds. You will join this order, or you will be brought into it. Billions of people felt fear tighten inside their chest. Children hid behind their parents. News anchors paused, unsure of how to even speak. Social media exploded with panic, confusion, and disbelief. Some people prayed, some shouted at the sky. Some stood frozen in place, unable to accept what they were hearing. Governments tried to stay calm, but the truth was clear. This was not a negotiation. It was domination. Inside the International Crisis Room, the atmosphere was tense. No one had expected humanity's first alien message to be a demand for complete control. Military leaders asked if the voice could be blocked or interrupted. Communication experts said they didn't even know where the broadcast was entering their systems. Scientists tried to analyze the technology behind the light projections, but the data made no sense compared to anything known on Earth. The alien ship hung in the sky like a silent judge, watching, waiting. Some leaders argued that humanity should comply, at least temporarily, to avoid risk. Others insisted surrendering without a fight would doom the planet forever. But no matter what they believed, one thing was clear to all of them. Earth could not afford to make a mistake. Outside the crisis rooms, the public reacted in every possible way. Some cities saw crowds gathering in shock, staring up at the sky with wide eyes. Others broke into panic, with people rushing to buy food and supplies. Schools closed early. Flights were grounded. Emergency phone lines filled with calls. Some people began recording messages for their families, unsure of what would happen next. Yet, among all that fear, something else quietly began forming inside people's hearts. It wasn't bravery, not yet, but it was something close, something stubborn, something deeply human. The idea that Earth should kneel to an unknown power did not sit well with anyone. Humanity had survived wars, disasters, plagues, revolutions, and challenges from nature itself. Humans had always found a way to push forward, to adapt, to resist. The thought of surrendering the entire planet to a distant empire felt wrong on a level that every person understood instinctively. People began posting messages of unity online, messages of strength, messages saying Earth would not bow down. Some wrote that humanity had fought its way out of every impossible situation before, and this time would be no different. Slowly, the fear in the air began mixing with determination. Meanwhile, the alien ship remained motionless, as if it believed the outcome was already decided, as if it had seen countless species surrender before and expected Earth to do the same. But Earth was different. By the end of the day, global leaders made their first decision. The alien envoys would receive a single reply, one spoken not by one country, but by all of humanity together. The message would be clear, firm, and unmistakable. Humanity would not surrender. This decision didn't come from confidence or arrogance. It came from something simpler, the belief that freedom was worth standing for. If this alien empire truly believed Earth would quietly hand over its entire future, then they did not understand humans at all. As night fell across half the planet, billions of people stayed awake, listening, watching the sky. The alien ship glowed faintly, like a distant moon, waiting for a response. Earth was about to speak for itself, and nothing in the galaxy would be the same after that. The message that humanity sent back to the alien ship was short, calm, and firm. It did not include anger, insults, or fear. It simply stated that Earth would not surrender control of its world. Once that message was delivered, the room fell silent. Leaders looked at each other, unsure what would happen next. Every second felt heavy. Every breath felt loud. The alien ship did not reply right away. It stayed still in the sky, glowing softly as if thinking. The whole world watched it with nervous eyes. Even people who normally ignored the news suddenly paid attention. There were no jokes, no distractions, no normal conversations. Only waiting. Inside homes, families sat together. Some held hands. Some stared at the TV. Others kept walking around the room, unable to sit because the tension was too much. Everyone wondered the same thing. Did humanity make the right choice? Hours passed, and still nothing happened. The alien ship did not send another message or show any reaction. It felt like the longest wait in history. Some people began to hope that maybe the aliens respected Earth's refusal. Maybe they were not as strict as they seemed. Maybe discussions would be peaceful after all. But deep down, most people sensed that the aliens would not accept a simple no. Late into the night, the Global Council continued meeting. Experts from every background filled the large room, studying maps, signals, and every tiny detail they could find about the alien vessel. The more they examined it, the more they realized how advanced it was. No exhaust systems, no visible engine, no heat signature, no known metal. It behaved like a piece of technology built far beyond anything humans could imagine. Scientists kept giving reports, and none of them were comforting. Every analysis ended with the same message. Earth could not risk assuming this would end peacefully. That realization forced humanity to do something it had never been able to accomplish in its entire history. Everyone united. For the first time, every country, every region, and every leader agreed on one thing. Earth belonged to all humans, and no outside force had the right to take it. Old rivalries disappeared overnight. Walls, political and emotional, fell. Borders that once caused tension now became lines of cooperation. Humanity didn't know what was coming, but it knew one thing for sure. They had to stand together, or they would fall separately. The decision was made to combine military knowledge from every nation into one global defense plan. This was not a plan for attack. It was a plan for survival. Engineers began working around the clock. Factories that once produced cars or electronics were converted into centers for building defensive systems. Old equipment was upgraded with the latest technology. Drones were prepared. Satellites were repositioned. Communication lines were connected across continents. The world had never moved this fast. And yet, the mood wasn't filled with fear. It's filled with determination. People shared messages of support across the internet. Volunteers helped organize supplies and transportation. Students offered their technical skills. Retired workers came back to help build crucial systems. Even people who had never cared about global cooperation before suddenly felt proud to stand as part of humanity. Everyone had a role. Everyone mattered. In the middle of this global effort, the alien ship finally reacted. A thin ring of light expanded from its surface, spinning slowly. It wasn't a weapon, and it didn't fire anything. Instead, it formed a bright halo around the ship. Within seconds, every device that monitored the sky detected a burst of data signals that did not match any human pattern. Scientists scrambled to decode it, but it was too complex, too fast, too foreign. The aliens were communicating with someone, but not with Earth. They were calling for reinforcements. The moment that became clear, the entire Global Council understood what was coming. This wasn't just a single ship. It was a messenger, a scout, a warning. And if the empire behind it believed Earth would refuse to surrender, they would send more ships. Bigger ships. Stronger ships. Humanity had limited time. What happened next showed something important about human nature. Instead of collapsing under pressure, people pushed harder. They worked faster. They coordinated better. It was as if the entire planet switched into a higher gear, driven by a shared instinct to protect their home. Around the world, scientists began collaborating in ways they never had before. Instead of hiding discoveries or competing for prestige, they exchanged everything openly: blueprints, theories, new ideas, even half-finished inventions. They didn't care about credit. They cared about survival. Some researchers took apart old spacecraft engines and tried to understand how alien technology might function. Others analyzed the holograms broadcast earlier, trying to find patterns or weaknesses. Teams of engineers attempted to build systems that could interfere with unknown signals, even if only for a moment. Every idea, no matter how strange, was tested. Meanwhile, The alien diplomats finally sent a second message. This time, it wasn't spoken through a calm voice in people's minds. It came as a visual projection directly above the ship. The image showed a massive fleet, dozens of colossal vessels traveling through space, heading straight toward Earth. Their silhouettes were sharp, curved, and intimidating. They moved like predators that had already decided their next meal. The voice returned, colder than before. You have chosen defiance. Your world's decision has been recorded. The Empire's enforcement fleet is on its way. They will secure your planet and restore order after resistance is neutralized. This is your last opportunity to reconsider. The message ended. The image disappeared. The sky dimmed again. People around the world watched the replay with disbelief. Some felt fear tighten inside them again. Others felt anger. But most felt something stronger, a refusal to be controlled. People began saying it out loud in their homes. We won't surrender. In smaller towns and large cities, people came together to support one another. Strangers offered help to strangers. Communities organized food drives and shelter plans, not because they expected destruction, but because they understood that unity made them stronger. Humanity did not know how advanced the alien fleet was. They didn't know how many ships were coming or how powerful they were. But they knew one thing. They weren't going to bow down. Back in the Global Council room, leaders made their next move. They would send a second message to the aliens. It would be stronger than the first, not aggressive, but unshakably clear. Earth did not fear them. Earth did not belong to the Empire. Earth would stand. The message they prepared was simple. Humanity chooses freedom. As the message was transmitted, tension filled the air. Everyone present knew that this decision would shape the future of every person on the planet. Some held their breath. Others closed their eyes. Some whispered quiet prayers. The alien ship did not reply. It simply hovered like before, silent and watchful. But now, humanity knew for certain that the peaceful part of this encounter was over. The aliens expected obedience, not choice. They expected fear, not unity. They expected surrender, not strength. They had misunderstood humanity completely. Late into the night, people around the world looked up at the sky with a new feeling courage. They didn't know what the aliens would do. They didn't know how much time was left before the fleet arrived. But for the first time since the ship appeared, they felt proud. Proud of Earth. Proud of each other. Proud of standing together. Didn't matter how strong the Empire was. It didn't matter how many worlds they had. Conquered. Earth would not be an easy victory. And deep inside, people believed something else too, something small but powerful. Maybe, just maybe, humanity had a chance. The days after the alien fleet message were unlike anything the world had ever experienced. People woke up each morning with the same thought pressing in their minds. The fleet was coming. It sounded unreal, like something from a movie, yet everyone knew it was true. The alien diplomats had shown the images. The ships were real, and they were already on their way. Even though no one knew how long it would take for them to reach Earth, everyone understood that the countdown had begun. But something interesting happened during this time. Instead of falling into fear, humanity found a strange kind of rhythm. People went to work, but with more purpose. Students studied, but with more focus. Families talked more, supported each other more, and connected in ways they hadn't in years. It was as if the entire planet realized how much each person mattered. Inside research centers, the atmosphere felt electric. Scientists worked with endless energy, even on very little sleep. They were determined to understand as much as possible about the alien ship already above Earth. Teams watched every movement of the vessel, even though it barely moved. They scanned it from every angle, studied every frequency it emitted, and analyzed every tiny shift in its glow. They wanted answers, and they were willing to work day and night to find them. One of the most surprising things they discovered was that the alien ship didn't seem to use any kind of fuel. There were no signs of burning, no release of gas, no heat waves, nothing. It just floated effortlessly, as if gravity didn't apply to it. That alone pushed human scientists into theories they had never considered before. Some suggested it used magnetic fields. Others thought it used a form of energy humans had never discovered yet. A few even believed it was manipulating space itself. While the scientists tried to learn from the ship, the military strategists had their own challenges. They had to prepare for a threat they didn't fully understand. They knew that Earth's traditional weapons might not work against alien technology. That meant they needed new ideas, clever approaches, and strategies that were less about brute force and more about creativity. In large underground command centers, long tables filled with maps, diagrams, and live feeds of the sky. Experts from different countries stood together, arguing, discussing, and testing theories. Drones were prepared in huge numbers. Satellites received upgraded systems. Communication networks were strengthened. Every step forward felt like a small victory, even if it wasn't enough yet. But the biggest question everyone kept asking was simple. What were the aliens expecting? They had underestimated Earth. Everyone could feel that. They probably expected humans to react like frightened children, begging for mercy. They probably thought Earth would panic and surrender. Instead, they found unity they did not predict. A unity stronger than any single nation, stronger than any past conflict, and stronger than any fear. Around the world, ordinary people also began showing small acts of resistance in their own ways. Artists painted murals showing Earth standing tall. Musicians wrote songs about courage. Writers created stories of hope. Even people who didn't understand politics or science found their own way to contribute. Food workers prepared meals for volunteers. Drivers helped transport supplies. Teachers helped children stay calm and focused. Everyone was doing something. And that unity created a quiet strength across the planet. The alien ship above Earth, however, didn't seem impressed. Every so often, it released a soft pulse of light from underneath, as if scanning the world. Scientists picked up the waves and discovered they weren't harmful, but they were powerful. These waves seemed to map the entire planet, its oceans, mountains, cities, even underground structures. It felt like the aliens were surveying their future property. That thought alone pushed humans to work even harder. They couldn't let their home become a trophy for some faraway empire. They couldn't allow themselves to become a footnote in someone else's history. One afternoon, something unexpected happened. For the first time since the ship appeared, it made a sound not inside people's minds, but in the air itself. A deep hum vibrated across the sky. Birds scattered instantly. Animals became silent. Even people indoors felt the vibration through their walls. The ship slowly rotated, facing a different direction. Scientists panicked for a moment, thinking this was a sign of aggression. But it was something else. A new projection appeared above the ship. This time, instead of a fleet, it showed a map of Earth with several glowing points marked in bright blue. These points were spread across continents, mountains, deserts, oceans, forests. They seemed random at first, but the pattern became clear after a while. These were the places the aliens were interested in. The points glowed brighter, and then the voice returned. It was calm, but this time it carried something new, something colder. These locations will be secured upon the fleet's arrival. You are advised to evacuate these areas before enforcement begins. The message ended abruptly. People stared at their screens in disbelief. The aliens weren't guessing. They had already made a plan. They knew exactly where they wanted to land, where they wanted to build, and where they wanted to take control first. This wasn't going to be a simple encounter. It was a takeover. The Global Council immediately called another emergency meeting. They discussed the glowing locations, trying to understand their importance. Some were mineral-rich areas. Some were major energy hubs. Others were simply places with strategic advantage. It showed one thing clearly. The aliens were not here for peace. They were here for control, for resources, and for dominance. But in the middle of all the tension and worry, something amazing happened. A team of young researchers, working in a remote lab, discovered something unusual while studying the alien data pulses. They noticed tiny irregularities, small distortions inside the signals coming from the alien ship. At first, the team thought it was an error in their instruments. But after checking again and again, they realized the distortions were real. The alien ship had weaknesses. They weren't obvious, of course. They were tiny, just little slips in the energy waves. But these small slips suggested that the alien ship's shielding system wasn't perfect. And if the shielding system wasn't perfect, then maybe, just maybe, there was a way to break through it. When the team reported their discovery to the Global Council, the reaction was immediate. Hope surged through the room. Not wild hope, not unrealistic hope, but something balanced, something that felt real. Earth might actually have a fighting chance. Experts began analyzing the distortions, trying to understand their patterns. They studied them hour after hour, comparing them to every system humanity had ever built. Eventually, they discovered something fascinating. The distortions were connected to the ship's scanning cycles. When the ship scanned the planet, its shield weakened just slightly. It wasn't enough for a full attack. But it was enough for information gathering, or maybe even interference. This discovery changed everything. It meant humanity wasn't completely blind. It meant the alien ship wasn't completely invincible. It meant there was room to think, plan, and adapt. And adaptation was something humans were very good at. In the following days, global teams worked together to develop new ideas. They focused on long-range communication, signal disruption, and ways to gather more information from the alien ship. They didn't want to attack, not yet. They wanted knowledge first. Knowledge meant power. Knowledge meant survival. The more they studied, the more they realized the aliens had made a big mistake. They assumed Earth would be easy. They assumed humans were predictable. They assumed fear would silence everyone. But humans weren't silent. They weren't predictable. And they weren't easy. They were stubborn, curious, creative, and endlessly determined. As the days passed, humanity grew stronger in spirit. People no longer stared at the sky with fear. They stared with defiance. They knew the fleet was coming, and they knew it would not be a small challenge. But they also knew something even more important. The aliens had underestimated the wrong species. And soon, the Empire would realize that the humans they expected to control were far more resilient and far more unpredictable than any world they had ever faced. The world had changed so quickly that people sometimes forgot what life felt like only a few weeks earlier. Streets still looked the same, buildings still stood tall, and cars still moved through traffic, but there was something different in the air. A quiet seriousness, a shared sense of purpose. People weren't living normal days anymore. Every sunrise felt like a reminder that the alien fleet was coming closer. The strange thing was that life, instead of falling apart, had become more focused. People woke up earlier. They talked to each other more. Even small moments, like a family eating breakfast together or neighbors greeting each other, suddenly felt valuable. The uncertainty made life feel sharper and more meaningful. Everyone seemed to understand that their actions mattered, even if they weren't scientists, soldiers, or leaders. Inside the global research centers, the discovery of the alien shield weakness pushed energy levels even higher. Sleep became optional. Meals were quick. Conversations happened while walking from one lab to another. For every problem solved, 5 new problems appeared, but nobody complained. People worked not because someone ordered them to, but because they genuinely cared about protecting their planet. The alien ship above Earth stayed silent, but that silence felt heavy. It watched from the sky like a giant eye, floating without effort. Sometimes it glowed, sometimes it dimmed, and sometimes it sent out small pulses of light that swept across the surface of the Earth. These pulses weren't harmful, but they felt invasive, like someone scanning every corner of your home without permission. People learned to ignore the pulses, but they never got used to them. Every time the sky flickered, people stopped what they were doing for a moment. A worker would pause in the middle of lifting a box. A child would stop running in a playground. A teacher would look up through a window. The pulse reminded everyone that time was running. What made things even more intense was the countdown projection that suddenly appeared one morning. Without warning, numbers appeared in the sky above the alien ship. They glowed red and decreased slowly, second by second. There were no words, but the meaning was clear. The fleet's arrival time was being displayed for the entire world to see. The number wasn't in days or hours, it was in seconds. Scientists quickly converted it and realized the fleet would reach Earth in a little over 2 weeks. The entire planet felt that countdown like a weight pressing down on their chest. It didn't cause panic, as many expected. Instead, it pushed everyone into motion. People who had been waiting, unsure how to help, suddenly found new motivation. Volunteers doubled. Supplies increased. Engineers, builders, programmers, and pilots rushed to contribute. Humanity moved as one giant, determined organism. Deep underground, in a secure command facility, global leaders and scientific teams gathered around a long oval table. Huge screens displayed the countdown, the alien ship, and streams of data from satellites. The mood in the room was serious but calm. The shield weakness discovery had given Earth something vital, a direction. The team leading that research had managed to isolate a pattern in the distortion. It appeared at regular intervals, lasting only for a few seconds each time. It wasn't enough for a direct attack, but it was enough to create a window for observation, maybe even communication interference. The team believed they could build a device that could briefly disrupt the alien ship's next scanning pulse. Not destroy it, not harm it, but break through the shield just enough to learn more about how the ship worked. A tiny opening, a small crack in the armor, was all humans needed to understand their enemy better. The question now was whether they could build the device in time. The Global Council approved the plan instantly. Every country sent its best engineers to work on it. Massive factories were repurposed. Old machinery was pushed to its limits. Experimental technology that had been stored away for decades was brought into the light. What normally would take years needed to be done in days. And humanity, for the first time, believed it could. As the device prototype slowly took shape, the alien ship above Earth made another move. The deep hum returned, louder than before. A band of glowing symbols circled the vessel, spinning faster and faster until the sky shimmered. People looked up nervously, wondering if this was the moment the aliens would attack. But instead, a new message appeared. Your preparations have been observed. Your unity is noted. Your world continues to choose defiance. This is unnecessary. Surrender now, and the Empire will ensure stability and protection for your species. The message was spoken calmly, but it carried a pressure that felt suffocating. It wasn't a threat, not directly, but it hinted that resistance was foolish. People around the world watched the message on screens. Some felt anger rise in their chest. Others felt determination strengthen. A few, especially the elderly, felt sadness, wishing they lived in a time when life was simple. Then the message ended with a final line. You cannot change what is coming. The moment those words disappeared, Something unexpected happened across the world. People didn't get scared. They didn't panic. They didn't doubt their decision. They got offended. Humanity was stubborn by nature. Being told what they could or couldn't do only made them want to prove otherwise. And being told they had no control over their future felt like a challenge more than a warning. Social media filled with messages, not of fear, but of confidence. People wrote things like, "Watch us, we choose our future, and Earth stands together." It wasn't bravado. It was unity speaking. In the research center, the teams finished the prototype of the disruption device just 5 days after starting. It looked nothing like a traditional machine. It was shaped like a cluster of antennas connected to a power core, glowing with a faint blue light. It wasn't designed to be beautiful. It was designed to be smart. Scientists carefully tested it in isolated labs. When they turned it on, the antennas sent out a tuned signal that created a ripple in the air. It didn't harm anything. It simply pushed. It pushed against invisible fields, particles, and waves. It was like a whisper made of energy. They needed to test it against the alien ship's next scan. They waited for the pulse, watching the sky. Minutes passed. Then the sky flickered. The alien scan was starting. The team activated the device. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ship's glowing field flickered slightly. Instruments showed a sudden drop in shield stability. Just for 2 seconds. But those 2 seconds were everything. In that tiny opening, Earth sensors captured valuable data. The alien ship's internal workings, structural pattern, energy pathways, and shield construction. It wasn't complete information, but it was more than humanity had ever hoped to get. The whole lab erupted in celebration. But then something else happened. The alien ship turned slightly. As if it had noticed something. It didn't attack. It didn't send a message. It simply turned and hovered lower, just a few 100 meters lower. As if giving Earth a silent warning. The message was clear without words. "We see you." That moment shook everyone, not with fear, but with realization. The aliens were not all-knowing. Their systems could be interrupted. Their technology was advanced, but not untouchable. Humans could adapt. Humans could learn. Humans could fight back in smart ways, not through destruction, but through creativity. The data collected from the brief shield opening was quickly analyzed. Scientists discovered something incredible. The energy running through the alien ship wasn't just fuel. It was a living system, reacting to its surroundings like an organism. That meant it could be confused, disrupted, or overwhelmed. This was the breakthrough humanity needed. In the days that followed. A global plan formed not to attack the fleet, but to meet it with technology strong enough to disrupt its systems. Earth wouldn't rely on explosive weapons. It would rely on intelligence, timing, and the unpredictable human spirit. The countdown in the sky kept shrinking, but the world didn't feel hopeless. For the first time, people looked at the glowing numbers not as a warning, but as a challenge. The fleet was coming, but Earth was ready to answer. And this time, the aliens would face a planet united, determined, and armed with more than weapons. They would face humanity's creativity, stubbornness, and refusal to give up. The Empire believed humans couldn't change what was coming, but humanity was preparing to prove them wrong. When the final stage of the war began, no one on Earth truly understood how much their world had changed. The sky, once calm and familiar, had become a map of distant battles. People no longer looked up with fear, but with a strange mix of pride and determination. They knew their planet had come far, far more than anyone expected. What started as a demand for surrender had turned into a fight that reshaped everything. The alien empire had believed humans would break. Instead, humans rose higher than ever before. As Earth's fleets made their last push into enemy space, the feeling across the planet was different from before. Earlier battles had filled people with worry. Now there was quiet confidence, like humanity had finally understood what it was capable of. Every person, whether sitting in a small home or working in a lab or repairing damaged systems, felt connected to something bigger. The war had forced humanity to unite, but that unity had also become its greatest strength. The alien empire had once seemed impossible to challenge. Their ships were larger, their weapons stronger, and their history of conquest stretched across countless star systems. They were used to fear. They expected other worlds to bow the moment they arrived. But humans did not bow. They questioned, resisted, adapted, and fought in ways the Empire never prepared for. That alone changed the direction of the war, but now the final push was happening. Earth's fleets moved through long stretches of space, following paths they had never traveled. They had learned the Empire's routes, decoded their signals, and understood their formations. Every ship carried people who had trained faster than anyone thought possible. Many used technology that didn't exist just months before. Humans had taken broken pieces of enemy machines, copied what they could, improved what made sense, and created tools that even surprised the Empire. As Earth's forces approached the Empire's core region, the aliens grew desperate. Their leaders, once certain of victory, realized they had misjudged everything. They had believed humanity was fragile. Instead, they discovered humanity was stubborn, unpredictable, and deeply protective of its freedom. Reports from their surviving commanders described humans as a force that grows stronger each time it is challenged. That line spread through the Empire like a warning. The closer Earth's fleets came, the more chaotic the Empire became. Many of their outer colonies had already fallen silent, not because they were destroyed, but because they no longer wanted to fight. Some alien groups, seeing how humans treated prisoners and civilians with fairness, began questioning the Empire's rule. A few even defected, sharing information about weaknesses and hidden routes. Humanity accepted the help, not out of trust, but because cooperation brought the war closer to an end. On Earth, people waited for news. They listened to updates, watched every transmission, and felt every shift in the war like it was happening in their own homes. Families gathered outside, communities formed support groups, and even strangers shared moments of hope together. It was a strange time. Everyone had fear inside them, but something stronger had grown over it: belief. Belief that they had a right to stand in the galaxy. Belief that they deserved peace on their own terms. Then the final battle began. Human fleets emerged near the Empire's central command world, a place protected by massive defense lines. At first sight, even some human officers felt a wave of worry. There were so many enemy ships, arranged like a wall of steel and light, blocking every path. But humans had seen worse odds before. They had survived every trap, every ambush, every overwhelming wave. They were not intimidated now. As engines roared and communication screens lit up, the first moves were made. Humans didn't rush in blindly. They learned throughout the war that direct power wasn't enough. Instead, they used smart tactics, dividing enemy lines, disabling key targets, confusing communication channels, and forcing the Empire to break its own formation. Every human ship did its job with calm focus. There was no panic, just steady cooperation. The battle lasted for hours that felt like days, with flashes of light spreading across the darkness of space. Some ships were hit, some damaged, but none gave up. Even when systems failed, crews found ways to push forward. They remembered what they were fighting for: not conquest, not revenge, but survival and dignity. Slowly, the Empire's final defense collapsed. Their ships, once symbols of fear, began pulling back. Some refused to fire. Others drifted powerless. A few signaled surrender. Those few moments changed the fate of the galaxy. Finally, a transmission came from the Empire's leadership. Their once arrogant rulers now spoke with a tone no one had heard before in certainty. They announced they were ready to end the war. They wanted peace. They wanted to negotiate. They wanted the fighting to stop before their entire civilization collapsed. Earth's leaders did not respond with revenge or cruelty. Humanity had suffered too much to become conquerors. They agreed to peace, but only under conditions that protected every world involved. There would be no more forced surrender, no more threats, no more empire ruling over the weak. Humanity wanted fairness, not dominance. The peace agreement marked a turning point, not only for the empire, but for the galaxy itself. Many alien civilizations watched closely. Some were afraid. Some were curious. Some felt a strange sense of admiration. The humans, a species no one paid attention to before, had defeated an empire and still chose diplomacy over destruction. After the war ended, Earth changed again. Life slowly returned to normal, but the world felt larger than before. People no longer imagined themselves as limited to their planet. They had traveled through space, fought battles far from home, and spoken to beings from distant stars. The universe, once an unknown mystery, now felt familiar. But the biggest change came from the visits that alien representatives from all over began, arriving on Earth, not to demand surrender, not to intimidate, but to learn, to talk, to cooperate. They saw humanity as something rare, a species that fought when necessary, but valued fairness even more. They wanted to understand how humans thought, how they planned, and how they united during crisis. Some wanted to build alliances. Others hoped for exchange programs. A few simply wanted to see the planet that had stunned an empire. For people on Earth, these visits felt unreal at first. Seeing alien delegates walk through city streets, visiting museums, sitting in meetings, it felt like something out of a dream. But slowly it became normal. Humanity adjusted. People greeted them, guided them, shared food with them, and taught them about life on Earth. Many aliens were surprised by how welcoming humans were. They had expected distrust or anger. Instead, they found curiosity and warmth. Not one moment became especially symbolic for the galaxy. A gathering was held at a large open space on Earth, attended by thousands of people from different planets. A human spokesperson stepped forward and said something simple. "We fought for peace, not power. We want a future where everyone has a place." Those words spread across countless worlds. They became a message that echoed far beyond Earth. Back home, families reunited with those who had served in the fleets. People told stories of bravery, teamwork, fear, and hope. Survivors returned to their lives, carrying memories they would never forget. Some continued working with the new alliances. Others simply wanted to rest and rebuild. Everyone contributed to healing the world from the weight of war. The galaxy also began to shift. Many planets broke free from the Empire's old rule and formed their own councils. Some asked Earth for guidance. Others simply shared resources and technology. A new network of cooperation began to form, one that felt balanced and respectful. The old fear that once controlled the galaxy faded slowly. And Earth? It became known as something unexpected, an anchor, a center of stability. Not the strongest world, not the richest, but the one that stood firm when it mattered. A species that refused to kneel. A people who valued freedom so strongly that even a mighty empire couldn't break their spirit. Over time, stories of the war turned into lessons. Children learned about the events not to glorify fighting, but to understand unity and courage. Museums displayed artifacts from the conflict, reminding everyone of the price of peace. Researchers used captured alien technology to advance medicine, energy, and exploration. Engineers worked on safer ways to travel the stars. Pilots trained for exploration missions instead of battles. The universe still held dangers, but humanity no longer faced them alone. Alliances formed during the war stayed strong. Communication between worlds became daily routine. Together, they explored, discovered, and built a future unlike anything imagined before the conflict began. In the end, humanity's response to the Empire's ultimatum became a story shared across galaxies. Not because humans were the strongest or most advanced, but because they proved something more powerful. They showed that even a world considered insignificant could rise, unite, and defend itself with honor. They proved that standing for freedom could change the direction of history. They proved that courage could echo across stars. And as the galaxy moved forward, one truth remained. The conflict that began with a demand for surrender ended with humanity standing tall, respected, unbroken, and ready to shape a better future for every world willing to walk beside them.